A new survey released by the employment company People2people reveals a concerning trend amongst Australian employees, with a significant number of them turning up to work unwell due to having depleted their sick leave and, of course, the pressure of rising costs on living. Over 60% of the Australian workers reported attending work at the office while they were feeling unwell because they had no remaining sick leave. I'm sure many of us can relate to that, although maybe I shouldn't have used the word us. Amongst those, over 90% confirmed they've come into the office while they were sick, not just once, but on a number of occasions in the last 12 months. And this is dangerous, I reckon. It's as dangerous as it is serious. And to help us get to the bottom of it, I have on the line Suhini Wijasinha, who is a senior HR consultant to People2people Employment Group. And they were the people who undertook the study recently. Suhini, welcome to Monday Drive.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you feeling well, Suhini?
I am feeling well. I currently don't have any sickness, but I can tell you now, if I was sick, I would not be in at work.
Well, yes, but that's contrary to the trend your study revealed by the sounds of things.
It really is, and it's an unfortunate situation, and I think it shows, there's quite a predicament in the Australian workforce at the moment in the way businesses are approaching sick leave and the attitude that they're having towards leave in general.
So you're saying it's more an employer issue or more an employee issue?
Look, I think it's definitely on the onus of the employer to manage this particular issue. Historically, the concept of sick leave is very much, if you're sick, you take a sick day. It's got nothing to do with any other personal errands or, situations and circumstances that we find ourselves in. And I think that's a little bit archaic in its approach now, and it's not fit for purpose in the modern day working environment. And
that would not be the view of the majority of companies, would it?
Look, I think there's a lot of approaches that businesses can take in this situation, which is going to really benefit them at the end of the day. Our responsibility is to ensure that people are fulfilled and feeling the ability to thrive in their workplace. And I don't think, the best place to sort of start that is to look at it as a tool for performance, which I think is where the root of the problem is at the moment. Employers really should sort of reevaluate how they, implement their sick leave policy, and they should transition away from that traditional sick leave to something called personal leave, which is what People2people has for all of their workers at the moment. And it's really to ensure that employees have flexibility to use their days for a variety of different needs, not just illness. And I think it's also, at the end of the day, who wants to go to the doctor when they're sick with a cold, when really we all know the best medicine is to just stay home and get better. Yeah,
I'd like to think that the company you represent, People2people, if they're not leading the fray in terms of best practice, then we're all in a bit of trouble, really, aren't we? Tell us a little bit about the study itself, because anyone can rattle up statistics. Tell us about the study.
So, at People2people, we obviously have access to a large number of employees working in various numbers of industries and different businesses, and not just, from a permanent full-time perspective, but casual, fixed term. And, we had tens of thousands of respondents for this particular study. And so it really did give us a very solid overview of where the current trends are sitting at the moment. Right. But I think it speaks to a larger issue, which is, we all changed after COVID in terms of the way that we do work and the way that we, believe a person can commit and obviously fulfill what their obligations and duties are. And I think part of being, competitive and staying competitive is understanding that there's a shift in the mindset, and to be a competitive business, you need to adapt to those shifts. And part of that is how you implement leave in the workplace. And really what it comes down to is starting from a place of trust. People want to come in and do a good job. And, when they're sick, they really should be given the confidence and the comfort that they can stay home and get better. Okay, concentrating more again on the employee. How should an employee himself or herself
assess their symptoms and to make the determination of whether their illness is contagious or serious enough not to actually attend their workplace?
Look, I think if you've got anything that's contagious, best practice is to stay at home. Sometimes those things can be very, very mild, and it could be that you feel fit to actually work, but you just don't want to be spreading any disease in the actual workplace.
Yeah.
So, if there's some flexibility there to work from home, definitely take advantage of it. But if you are unwell, the best practice is that you take the time off that you need. If it's something serious and you feel like, you're probably going to be off for more than 2 days in a row, I would think that then that's best to go in, get checked out with the doctor, and then communicate what information you have to your employer.
Yeah. Well, what about the opposite side of the coin? What happens when an employee comes into the office or into work and he's clearly sick?
Well, obviously I can't speak for other employers, but definitely people to people, our rule of thumb is, look, if you're sick, you should be at home. And if you're not well enough to be able to do the basic tasks that you have in your day-to-day, then you should take a day off rather than working from home, because we have an obligation as an employer to provide a safe and healthy working environment, not just to that particular employee that's unwell, but to everybody else as well.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, as an employer, you're going to have multiple people off at the same time if you get somebody that's sick coming in during winter, especially in this freezing cold weather that we've been having,
right.
and just spreading it around. So I would definitely recommend that.
Right. So that puts an onus onto the employer to kick out anyone they see in the office who's coughing and sneezing and doing stuff all over other employees. What would your tips be for employers to manage sick leave and actually provide the support to employees rather than letting it get to that point where they have to kick them out of the office?
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is ensuring that you educate your employees on the leave policies that you have. So when employees are coming on board, make sure that they really understand what their leave entitlements are, how they can use them, and really go through those nuanced expectations. Sometimes, policies, they're quite broad, but, you might have a way of doing things in your business where you need to make clear that it's okay for them to, take time off if they're unwell, and they don't need to go in for a doctor's certificate for just 1 day of sick leave if that's what you prefer. Make sure you have those conversations. Promote flexible work options. I think that's really the way forward. Encourage the accessibility of an employee being able to work remotely, or flexible hours for employees who need to care for sick family members, for example. And I think we need to really transition away from the way we view traditional sick leave and move to personal leave, which is allowing employees to use those days for whatever it might be, not just illness. And what you'll find is that overall you're going to have a healthier workforce, not just from a physical perspective, but from a mental perspective as well, which is equally important. Okay.
Suhini Wijayasinghe and is a senior consultant with People to People. And our parting message should possibly be to avoid the workplace if you have symptoms of what Peggy Lee sings about, and that is fever. Suhini, thank you so much for joining us today on Eastside Radio.